Hello, everyone. Welcome to Here on Earth. My name is Marley Daintree. I am here today with my friend Zoe. Zoe is a devoted mother of five whose journey has been shaped by resilience, courage, and deep transformation. While many see her as a confident and grounded woman today, her path has also included challenges, including childhood bullying, the silent struggle of a 12-year eating disorder, and the work of overcoming limiting beliefs to finally feel worthy of her best life. These experiences not only tested her, but also empowered her to step fully into her strength and self worth. Now living on the other side of the world, Zoe runs a thriving online business and shares her story to inspire others to rise above adversity, honor themselves, and design a life aligned with their deepest values. Hello, Zoe. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Marley. How are you, darling?
Oh, as we were just saying, I'm puffed out and hot and pregnant, but good. But
Yeah,
other than that, good.
I completely feel for you, darling. It's it's definitely one of those things that you are at the end of the tunnel, at the end of the road, but you've just gotta, yeah, you see the light and you just don't know where that light's gonna pop itself up. So keep going. You're doing great.
Yeah, I don't really mind. I remember with my son feeling really like, "Oh, I want my baby. I want my baby. I want it to happen." But then with my daughter and with this pregnancy, I don't know if it's because once you have children, you're just like, "Oh, it's all right. Just one more day. Just give me another day before."
You actually look forward to an extra day or two, knowing that
Yeah.
there's really things that you could be doing, yeah,
Yeah.
to getting yourself more ready. But it's okay.
Yeah, I keep joking that I can't give birth yet because the house is too messy. There's nowhere to give birth. I need to wait for some nesting energy to clean a space. But but
Oh,
but we'll
bless. That's
see.
amazing.
Anyway, so Zoe and I know each other through Manat, and we have been chatting about life. And I really wanted Zoe to come on and just share more. So I'd love you to tell us about your own, as far back as you want to start. Or just, yeah, when you look back on your life now, what are some really turning points or sort of catalyzing moments, and how did you become who you are?
Okay, firstly, thank you so much for inviting me on to the podcast. I feel really honored. This is the first time I'm doing a podcast. As you know, it's something I've been wanting to start in 2025. With so many things happening in the background, that it's been something that is on my heart. But yeah, you've really inspired me seeing how much you are, embodying this and your journey with podcasting. It's really inspiring. So thank you, Marley. For me to start off, basically, for those who know me as someone who is very confident in who she is and what she stands for. Um, but that didn't come at a cost. I will be very raw and I'll be very real with you guys today. And I hope, there's other people out there that watch this or listen to this and think to themselves, well, after someone who seems so confident, what they actually had to endure to get to that point. And I strongly feel that, I had those moments, like you said, those turning points for me. That, yeah, turning, absolutely, they were turning points, pivoting moments for me, where I was faced with either I do something now, or my life is just going to continue to go down the drain, essentially, because there is a lot that people don't actually realize. Starting with obviously the bullying in primary school. So I had, being Greek, my background is Greek. We are ethnically very strong in our culture. So there are things within our culture that can be stigmatized. So if you go against the grain or you choose to do something that's different to, what the people in your community are doing, then that's really frowned upon. I grew up with the mentality of, you can't do that because your family is going to talk about you. You can't say this, or you can't be seen doing that because you're going to tarnish the family's reputation. So and also the other thing is, I think that played a massive part in my life was I come from a big family. So I have 5 children myself, but I also came from a family of 5 children. So I'm the youngest of 5 kids, 4 older brothers. And that environment, growing up, seeing a lot of things in my life where, some kids shouldn't have to see with, the parents and the family dynamics isn't very it's not all butterflies and rainbows in childhood, and I can tell you that seeing certain things in my life definitely have to this day played a part on the way that I parent my kids. So when I was young, I had my 4 older brothers. They were overly protective, like super protective, to the point where it was like I felt like my eldest brother was basically my dad to that point. And to this day, he still tries to parent me or talk to me when he doesn't agree on some things. But then it's almost like, I forget that I'm that little child, and I kind of need to remind myself I'm not that, 9-year-old that used to go hide underneath her bed and cry because she didn't know how to cope with things. So yeah, in our family, it was always like, you do this, you're the girl, you have to do this. This is the way it's done in our family. You help mum, you cook, you clean, you do all these things. Now, being fully transparent, I was a lazy little girl when I was little. I didn't really help my mum as much as I do, and as much as I should have. Sorry, and to this day, I often have that guilt inside of me, and I didn't do the things that I needed to do as a good Greek girl. That's what we grew up. That's how we were. That's what was embedded in us. And so I went through my childhood, often like questioning things like why is my life like this? Why don't I have any freedom? I wasn't allowed sleepovers. I wasn't allowed, after school. Even though I wasn't allowed, that's where my rebellion started. Because from a young kid, those who know me, from primary school, always knew that I was doing the naughty thing. I was always seeking the attention because I felt like at home I wasn't able to get that attention that I needed, but the right attention. Because not only did I face, physical abuse, emotional abuse as a kid, but for me, the attention seeking was an outlet that I needed somewhere to basically feel very validated. So at school it was hard because I did all the things that I knew I wasn't supposed to do, and that ultimately probably played a big part in the way other kids see me, because they're like, well, you're different, you're not like the good Greek girl that you should be, all like we are. And I kind of felt like I was an outsider in my own circle. And I often was bullied. And the way I would um, cope with that would be to, laugh it off or make fun of myself ahead of anyone else trying to make fun of me, so that I, wasn't faced in the situation that, I was hurt and I was bullied so much, because it felt like there was no escape. At home, I felt like I was suffocating because of the way my family dynamics was. And then at school, I felt like, I wasn't able to be for myself fully free. I kind of had to be the clown. I had to mask myself as a clown, and I had to do things that, you know, I thought were okay, but in the eyes of society or the other kids around me, even though they were young, they would be like, "Oh yeah, our mum doesn't let us do that." Like I was almost like I turned into the bad influence, and I said to the kids, "Well, do what I do," or like, that's okay if you guys don't want to do that. I'm going to try and do this, but then in the end, I would get teased and made fun of for trying something different. And that continued right through into high school, where high school, I think, was the most brutal for me, to be honest. That's where I ended up with finding a group of people who weren't, within our community. And that's where I started the smoking at the age of 13 and a half. I got into really bad situations that ended up putting me in very dangerous positions at that age. um, the hardest thing for me was when people found out it was a school rumor, but when they found out what really happened, it was almost like this massive thing of shame on me, on my family, on everything. I don't want to go into too much detail with that because that's not something I'm mentally okay to speak on at this point in my life. But basically, yeah, it was people had heard a rumor about me, thought that basically hooking up with someone, and when they realized what had actually happened and the truth that had come out, it was, yeah, hell broke loose. Um, Yeah, and I ended up my parents basically shipped me off, or they sent me to Greece, and that was the first time I came to Greece when I was 14 years old, and I stayed in Greece for a year and a half. I think my parents were like, "You know what? We don't know how to deal with this girl. She's not like the other good Greek girls that we know, that we see our fellow people in the community have." And I honestly think I was a handful for my parents. Even though they had four boys, I was always the one that was giving them trouble. And, it's hard seeing, like, reflecting back on this now and actually openly admitting to this, because I know that, who I could have been and the potential that I could have had versus what I chose to do and the outlets I chose to go and seek were two very, very different things for me. Um, and that's why now, like, oh, bit of a detour, but now that I have girls, I see that. I see how much the parenting that I grew up with influenced the decisions and the things that I did behind my parents' back. And that's why I always say to myself, know better, do better. Anyway, so when I went to Greece, I was there for a year and a half. I went to school. That was basically the first real time I immersed myself in the culture here. I went to school here, even though I was supposed to be in grade 9, they put me back to grade 7. And that was really hard because I was like, oh, the work's still really hard to do. But, I stuck it out. I came back to Australia about a year and a half later. And then I had left Greece when I was 15 and a bit, and I had met a guy. So for me, relationships didn't have much of well, no, sorry, relationships meant a lot to me. Relationships for me were my security. They were when I found, someone who I basically clung to, it was that validation that I couldn't find from home, that I couldn't find from, my close group of friends. And that's why when I fell in love, I fell hard because I kind of like banked on that was my forever. That was going to be the person that was going to take care of me. So anyway, when I came back from Greece, I was working in the takeaway shop. I literally paid for my tickets. Every week, I remember I was getting about 150 to $200 every week, working a few shifts. And the money that I was earning every week, I was literally taking to the travel agent, to Escape Travel at the time in Casuarina, and paying off my ticket slowly, slowly. Behind my parents' back, I ended up coming back to Greece when I was 16. And for 3 months, I literally told my mum the week before I was leaving, I was like, "Mum, I've booked my tickets." Luckily, my mum had family here. But it was really hard. It was a massive shock. They're like, "What are you doing? You're 16 years old. Where are you going, going to leave?" Because that was huge. No Greek girl does that. No Greek girl at the age of 16 pays for her own ticket. And I say this now and I'm like, no Greek girl does this. You do not go and pay for your own ticket and then jump on a flight and go to the other side of the world, because I had a summer love that broke up with me the year before and I had to come and find him. So I came back, and I had a very, um, how do I say this? I had a summer that was full of all these experiences, all these things that had happened. I did not respect my body. I did things that I am not, proud of to this day. But then I also came back to Australia and I had the mindset, and this was the first time that this kind of hit me, where I knew I was going to go back to that whole, people would make fun of me, or Zoe's this, Zoe's that, and I remember having like this a moment, like this epiphany moment. And I thought to myself, no, no, I'm not going to be that person that they bully anymore. I'm going to start freaking standing up for myself. When people try to like put me down, I feel like I need to start, um, I need to start defending myself. Mind you, this is also the time that my eating disorder started. So my eating disorder started right before I moved to Greece. I should have actually said that. And I remember because people had, I can't remember if they had heard me or I had said something. To be honest, I can't remember that particular thing, but I remember a friend of mine, she was very smart, and she is very smart to this day. And she came to school one day and she brought all these magazines and she said to me, "Zoe, do you know what you're doing to yourself?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You know, every time you go and you throw up after you eat, basically you're deteriorating your teeth. The acid from the bio is eating away at your teeth." And I was like, "Oh shit. Okay." And I always remembered that. I always remember that conversation to this day. It's like one of those like core memories that I have. And I masked my eating disorder so well. Very, very, very few people had it. Less than a handful of people knew what I was battling with. But it's funny because when you have an eating disorder, for me, be having it for 12 years, you really see when it peaks and when there's lows. So when I would be going through a relationship breakup, straight away, that was my outlet. I felt unworthy. I felt disgusted in myself. Anything that I wore just looked so bad on me, and I couldn't find clothes. Obviously, the clothes that were wearing were skimpy, and as we all, a lot of us, going through our teens, wanted to wear the denim jean rip shorts, the tiny little denim shorts, the crops, the singlets, all this stuff. But nothing, I remember nothing. I was never happy with the way that something looked on my body, and particularly around the time if I would have like a an escalation in my bulimia because I felt like shit, I need to get all of this out. I felt like honestly, for someone who, if you have an eating disorder, you will relate to this. But if you the only way because when you feel like life is falling apart around you, the only way you feel like you have control in your life is when you have, an outlet. And for me, my that was my outlet, and it is the worst possible thing that you can do, not only to yourself physically, emotionally, but you are digging yourself the biggest possible hole that you could imagine, because you're basing yourself first of all on your image, on your worthiness. So my self-worth, and I think that's what I really struggle to today, because even in calls with the team and with Monet and everything, and the team calls, when self-worth the topic comes up, I kind of go into a shell. I kind of hide away, and I don't like talking about it, because my self-worth, even though I'm confident, and this is what I was saying one day, even though I may seem so confident, my self-worth is still very low. And I hope people who are listening to this understand why, even though I may seem confident, I can jump on and I can talk and I can do all these things. My self-worth and the way I see myself is something that I feel like I need to work a lot more on. Anyway, sorry, back to what I was saying. So yeah, when there would be a relationship breakup or something, that would peak. And I would remember, every single time I would have hard moments in relationships, whether they were looking towards, they were going for a breakup or something like that, I would go bonkers with, that's all. I was very fixated on myself. I also had this thing where I also had to run to the toilet within a half an hour time frame of eating. I was so conscious. You could see me, like I could feel myself starting to fidget if I knew I was going over that time frame, because I was like,
Mm,
I just need to get this out. Like it was a really dark place to be.
mm. I'm just gonna stop you for a second because I want to comment on a bunch of things. So, I can relate to so much of it. When I was a little kid, I feel like I was just so like open and honest, and I would tell people all about my life and I had a bit of a weird upbringing, so I would just share that with people, and then it would get totally thrown back.
Going back in,
I,
yeah.
yeah, and like like
Ex-
when I was little, like for a while, my mum was a heroin addict, and that was my reality. And my mum is also like an incredibly beautiful, kind, lovely person who I adored. So I would just tell people these things, and I didn't really. And my dad was kind of hippie, and it was just that was my life. And I would tell people, and then people would be like shocked and, have a lot to say about it. And I also remember being extremely romantic. It was like I would like Buffy the Vampire Slayer was my favorite show, and I thought like Buffy and Angel's tragic love story was like, I don't know, the epitome of love, which is like he's a vampire who murders all of her friends and she kills him, and it's like, so dramatic and not like a healthy relationship. And I was like, oh
Yes.
yeah, that's the goal. And
That's the perfect relationship.
yeah. And yeah, I'd get really infatuated with people, and I'd write all this like romantic poetry and stuff. And I remember my dad being like, what is with this? Like, there is more to life than this. Like, you're a kid. Like, why are you? But yeah, and then I remember years later when I had kids and I was reading like heaps of what's his name? Gabor Mate, that doctor. And he does heaps of stuff about childhood and like ADD and stuff. But I remember reading these things saying that like that when you have, like when you feel sort of not belonging or something as a child, that it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
normal to have these like intense romantic attachments. And it's like you're trying to recreate that unconditional love that you wanted to receive
It's
from your
normal.
parents, but it wasn't there. So you're really looking for it in all these wrong places. And I can see, like, yeah, as a teenager, that it was like I was so ready to put myself in these dangerous situations because I was just chasing that love. And and when I read that, I had a lot more sort of compassion for those years, and like, oh, I'm not just a little weirdo. Like, it's like I was like trying to meet my attachment needs. And
Yeah.
I think same like in German new medicine, which is like the framework that I see sort of health and behavioral traits through. There's also this lens that like if you have, it's called like a sexual frustration conflict, which isn't just about sex, but it's about like it's like sex from a mammal point of view, not like just human, but from a mammal of like, who is my mate? Where is my pack? Who do I belong to? And if there's like a rupture there, then there is this compulsion to sort of, yeah, to find a relationship,
Make
to
that up.
find a mate. So,
Make that
as,
up. Yeah.
yeah, and as teenagers, that does manifest as like wearing skimpy clothes or chasing attention, like these things. Anyway, and then also just with the bulimia, I also wanted to add that, like, yeah, when I was a teenager, I don't really remember where it started. I think my mum had heaps of eating disorder stuff, and it just was normal to me. Like, oh, yeah, no, her mum, I remember that I'd always grown up with, like, knowing that her mum had put her on a diet when she was, like, 7, and that was, like, like, women were supposed to be small, they were supposed to eat less than other people, and that was just, like, the truth
My
of it,
mum
and
told me she used to drink vinegar
yeah,
to,
wow.
yeah.
It's so sad, and,
And my
like,
mum's 73. But,
yeah, sometimes I speak to my grandmother, she's passed away now, but when I used to speak to her, she used to always tell me about whether she had gained or lost weight and about what diet she was on, and I was like, "That's so fucking sad, like, you're an old lady and you're still
fixated on
there."
how, you know,
Yeah, but so I just remember that as a teenager, I would just not really eat, like, I just like, I'd get lunch money for school, and usually I'd spend it on cigarettes, and then I'd just smoke, and then at night, I'd get really hungry and, like, binge eat. And when I look back to it as well, I feel like I can't help but wonder, like, oh, if I just let myself eat enough then, would I have grown bigger boobs? Or would I have, like, I don't know, like, gotten taller? Or, like, who knows? Like, all these things where I was like, I sort of, like, stunted myself. And I also think that there's almost a part of that of, like, it's not safe to be a woman. So it's like I'll sort of, like, stay childlike or stay,
yeah.
yeah. And then so for years, I just sort of starved, like, again, I wouldn't have really thought that I had an eating disorder. It was just like, oh, I just don't eat as long as possible. And then I like binge out. And then very like years later in my early 20s, I put on weight. Um, I ended a relationship and I left Darwin, and a bunch of things happened. And then now from a German new medicine perspective, I see this as a KCT, which is like a kidney collecting tubules, which is where you feel abandonment or isolated or like a refugee. And this makes you absorb water. So in this
Wow.
time, I like puffed out and I was so disturbed by that. And I felt like I had no control over it. And it was like I would like, you know, be really strict with my diet and exercise heaps and my weight didn't shift. So during that time I actually became, yeah, I was like bulimic for about 4 months. And it was, I think it's one of the most horrible things ever because I feel like it came with so much like so much guilt and shame because I was like, there's people starving in the world and I'm vomiting up my food. And then also like the physical effects of vomiting. It's like you're totally
Sure.
throwing your minerals out. So it's
That's
like
right.
your mood is mental. Like I remember sometimes like I'd eat and then I'd vomit and then I'd have like a anxiety attack or something. And
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
really like that only lasted for a few months. But the compulsion to do it and the sort of idea, like, should I do it? That was there for years. And honestly, that didn't go away until I got pregnant. And then it was like, my body is no longer mine. It's like my body is growing this baby. So I have to look after myself.
That's right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to add.
Yeah. No. 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 I love you sharing that. Yeah. When it's funny when you said about lunch money, I'm like, oh, lunch money. When I there were so many times I would give my money away for lunch to my friends who, I just that was a way for me trying to get them to like me, to fit in, to be accepted, and like it's a simple thing as like giving away your lunch money. You don't realize what you're actually giving away. It might seem funny to some, but for me, like, that was me like literally giving away the way I seem like I wasn't even worth having lunch because I wanted to
Mm,
give that to my friends so that they could like me. Like, it's actually yeah, if my daughter said that to me today, she turned around, she said to me, "Mummy, I gave my lunch money away to this person so they could like me." I think I would just look at her and cry.
mm, mm.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it wasn't one occasion, it was so many times. I was working at Brumbies from when I was at the age of 13, so throughout high school, like, having lunch money wasn't an issue for me. I had money, for that. Even though my father was very strict, and the money at home, the finances were very strict and tight. I always found a way to buy after school. I would go to like, Wanguri supermarket, which is like the local mini supermarket, and I would buy all my friends everything that they want. And, and I probably got something little for me too. But I've always attached money to like, I'm very big when I go out with friends and stuff, I actually almost get offended when they don't let me pay because it's a psychological thing. I don't know, maybe it's from that. Maybe like, I've been able to see the pattern now. But for me, it's like, I choose to spend my money on others because in a way that's almost like, I want them to like me and to find that something like that I did something nice for them. So anyway, yeah, it was a really hard time with the bulimia itself. It was something I remember, going out at night when we'd go out like with friends, clubbing and whatnot, and everyone would want to go get a feed before they'd go out. Or, for me, I was like, okay, no, no, I'll meet you guys later because I didn't want to be seen eating with them with the chance of me having to like duck away because I got to the point where I was able to mask it so well. Every time it would happen, I would come out with like teary red eyes. My makeup would be ruined. My eyes would be red. And like I would just have to sit in the bathroom like this so that my eyes would calm down, fix my makeup. Like people would not know that I had done that unless they were in the cubicle next to me listening to me purge. So it's it's uh, it's crazy to think that that relationship that I had with food, yes, I treat food completely different now, and thankfully I don't have those issues anymore. But now it's almost like the opposite end of the spectrum where I'm not respecting my body enough to nourish it with the right foods. And people could say, well, you've got 5 little kids, because my kids are really young. But it's almost like I've taken the complete opposite approach with the food now, and it's like, oh, we're just going to eat whatever we want because we're not doing that anymore. At least we're not, going and doing something silly like that. But yeah, so that's the bulimia for me. To be honest, Marley, it really did start to change for me or completely stop when I met my husband. So my husband, to give you everyone an idea, so we, even though we've been together for 9 years, we have a history of since we met when I came back that first time from Greece when I did high school here, and I met him briefly, but I always thought that he was the guy that was too shy for me. He was too quiet for me. And him and I would never be able to have a relationship because it would always be me doing the talking. And it's funny that we're recording this podcast today because for the first time last night, we were laying in bed last night and he said something about him in high school. He was actually talking about a teacher that he used to give so much grief to, this Greek teacher. And he's like, "Yeah," and I said, "Oh, did he ever figure out it was you?" And he's like, "Nah, he never knew it was me." And I turned around and I said to him, "Thank God you didn't know me in high school." And he
Mm.
looked at me and he goes, "Why?" And I said, "Because you wouldn't have liked me just like everyone else didn't like me." So I'm just and I started bawling my eyes out when I said that to him. Like I said to him, everyone used to tease me so much. It would have influenced the way you see me. We probably would have been together. So thank God you went to Darwin High and I went to Dripstone. And that's and we kind of kept our lives separate. But going back to how my eating disorder stopped, it was because of my husband. Because for the first time in my life, when we finally got together, because we dated like 4 or 5 times and it was never the right time, or I always kind of, didn't take the relationship seriously and didn't see him as my forever. Um, but when we got back the last time and I realized the diamond that he is, and he literally gave me everything that I ever wanted in my life, he that's when my eating disorder completely went away. And like when I felt pregnant very quickly with my husband. We were together for about 2 months before I fell pregnant. And I had that same mindset. Well, it's not about me anymore. And my husband, he kept just saying to me how beautiful I am. And he knew my struggles and he knew my battles and all these demons that I had, because though I had so many demons inside of me, Marley, that I had to constantly battle with, and I didn't know how to battle them properly. I didn't have the tools that I have today to be able to, to work against them. But my husband was the reason why I stopped everything, because for the first time in my life, I felt validated, I felt seen, I felt beautiful, I felt understood, and it's hard if you don't have that, because of course I'm not saying that you have to find someone to feel these feelings of validation, but for me that's how it came for me. It came in that form, what I was seeking for my whole life, and going and knocking on doors that weren't behind those doors weren't what I was looking for. I was able to fix and check myself with, my husband doing it with me and helping me through these things. So yeah, I definitely think that the bulimia played a huge role in my life, how it affected me mentally. Hey, sorry.
You're right.
This lady came to see my mum, and my mum was like, "Oh, since you've come out here, have some breakfast. This is your traditional Greek breakfast here." So yeah,
Very nice.
but I'll have the coffee. Um, yeah. So
Yeah. My
nice.
husband and I also, I got pregnant after we'd been together for about 3 months. And yeah, I remember, yeah, sort of similar feeling like, again, it's like, no, you don't need somebody else to complete you, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, it certainly makes it a lot easier when someone is loving on
It
you.
does.
Like, I remember just feeling like, "Oh, I wish I could do my whole life over with this love," because
Yes.
I had felt like
Yes.
like it's like I'd gone traveling, I'd done all these parties and I'd done all this cool stuff, but I'd done it all being so scared and insecure inside. Like, especially like with the weight stuff, like I feel it makes me angry sometimes that it's like so much of my life and my attention went on like worrying about something so trivial. And then at the same time, it's
Literally.
not trivial when you're in it. Because I remember avoiding parties with pools because I didn't want to wear a bikini. And I also didn't want anyone to know that I didn't want to wear a bikini. Because it's like I
Yeah.
was kind of like, I think other people would have said that I was a normal size, but I didn't feel comfortable, but I was also embarrassed that I didn't feel comfortable. And like,
No.
I remember going to Thailand and sitting on a beach, and I've got photos of this. And in the photos, I look fine and I look like I'm having fun, but I remember the moment and I remember just sitting there trying to calculate, like, am I the biggest person on this beach? Like, is everyone else skinnier than me? And I remember like looking at everyone's bodies and like just thinking crazy things. And so much of my time was like, oh, I can't jump off the boat because, like, what if it's an unflattering angle? Or like, just so much
Yeah.
wasted
So
energy.
much.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
You
so
said it.
many times where it's like I was there, but I wasn't there. Like,
Yeah.
it
You
looked
weren't
like I
able to be
was,
present because you were
yeah.
so caught up on how you felt and how you thought others were looking at you. Yeah.
Mm. And it's just mental. like,
It
and,
is. Like you said, wasted energy, Marley. It was absolutely that. If only we could put that energy into the shit experiencing that moment or whatever, you know?
yeah. And also looking for love of being like, "Oh, is he the one? Is he the one? Is he the one?" Rather than being like, "Am I having fun? Do I like them? Like, am I?" Like, it was always like, "Am I accepted?" rather than like, "Do I want to be accepted here? Like, am I actually, like, yeah, again, just
So
so
true.
much
So true.
so much wasted. And I guess, yeah, it's interesting to think like with my own parenting, like, I guess that's all we hope, that we set our children up with enough of that love that they get to actually go out and enjoy their lives rather than, I don't know, trying to piece the pieces together. And of course, it's like, I'm sure my parents would feel sad to hear me say that because they would have probably had the same idea. like, like I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, everyone's parents sort of hope for that. Um,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
interesting as well. I remember I went to Darwin High and I remember some of like the Greek kids. And I remember that I remember that I had friends and that they weren't allowed to come to sleepovers or to go out after school, or they weren't really allowed to socialize with anyone that wasn't in the Greek community. And I remember as a teenager, I thought like, oh, that's like weird and like sad for them. But then now as a
Yeah.
parent, I'm like, I get it. like if I don't want my kids to do any sleepovers or hang out with anyone that's not a family friend. Like, no way. I'm like, yeah, the Greeks were onto it. They knew what they were doing. Like, it makes sense to me now. But
They're extra for a reason.
yeah, I'm like, can I join the Greek community? But,
Sure.
but, but yeah, no, it's funny.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's crazy. Like now when I think back to, how the other kids, how their parents were versus how my parents were, I was like, why can't my parents just be normal? Why do I have to be why am I the one that's born into this chaos, into this crazy? Because my father, he battled with alcohol for many, many years. I almost felt like I needed to escape all of that. And the way that I would escape it, now looking back, it was all the wrong way for me to try and find ways to escape it. But when you understand the little girl that's inside and just is screaming and says, love me, help me, oh, I just want to feel safe. But then again, I'm the one putting myself in those unsafe situations. It's a recipe for disaster. And I'm lucky I didn't end up dead, in between cars. Or, the things that I've done, I've gone to the extremes, Marley, for love. I've, like I said, when I was 16, I paid for my own tickets to come to Greece to see my summer love. Where before my husband and I, actually got together, I had met a guy who was in Melbourne. I literally picked up my entire life, moved to the other side of the country, not knowing anyone or anything. Um, and it wasn't until I went there and everything that I had basically been promised, like, yep, come here, you're going to absolutely love Melbourne, you're going to love our life, we're going to be on a farm doing all these things. And then I go there and the family dynamics is completely different to what they were telling me it was. So, I ended up coming back with my tail between my legs. And I remember crying to my mum and saying to my mum, who is going to want to marry me? Who is going to want me after the things that I've done and the name that I have given myself? Who is going to want to marry me? And it's funny how things will, God's plans, obviously, divine, but he, my husband, literally a month after I came back to Darwin after that relationship ended, I came back on the 31st of December, right before New Year's. It was like 11:54 p.m. I still remember like going down the escalator at the airport and seeing my parents, and I was just bawling my eyes out, so upset. Anyway, so a month exactly later, my husband had messaged me, and he just sent me a message saying hi with a smiley face. And I thought it was really mean because I was like, he knows I've just come back from Melbourne, and he's like in my twisted mind, he thought that it hadn't worked out, and he was kind of like, oh, hi, you're back. Because we had tried to get together a few times years before, and I was like, oh. Anyway, I played along with it. I was like, hi, you probably heard I'm back. He's like, you're back? Because I thought you were in Melbourne. I thought you were living in Melbourne. I said, no, that relationship ended too. I'm back. And yeah, and then we kind of kept talking. And for the first time, like the fifth time my hubby and I got together, that wasn't the last time we got together. That was the second last time. But so that was the fourth time. And when we started talking, and for the first time, I was like, oh, he does talk. He does. He's not mute. He does communicate. Wow. And it kind of like made me see him in a different light, and it was very refreshing. But then again, I went and self-sabotage because a few months in, I felt like I hadn't given myself time to heal from the previous relationship. And I said to him, I can't do this. I'm not ready for a relationship. I'm not ready for all of this. So we ended up, I ended up calling it off again. And that was the last time for him. He's like, nah, you're not doing this to me ever again. You are, where I don't ever want to see you again, basically. For the first time, like there's a word in Greek, and I can't, like, he was disgusted in me. In Greek, it's mechisichafi. And for the first time, like, I was the one chasing him after a few months when I realized my mom came back from Greece. She's like, what happened to Ilya? She's like, where's Ilya? I thought you guys were going great. I'm like, no, mom, I wasn't ready. Everything that happened with so and so, I just, she's like, but he loves you. No one is going to love you like Ilya. Don't you understand that? And I sat with that because when my mum says things to me, I write a lot of what she says off, but a lot of her words land with me. And I just kept stirring and stewing inside of me. And anyway, on the night before we got together, I was out. It was my birthday. I was doing very silly things, and basically, I had an epiphany. There was this guy that I was kind of seeing at the same time, and I had this epiphany. Well, I was in hot potato at the time, and it was like, no, you need to be with Ilya. Even though this guy has just asked you out, you need to be with Ilya. Like, you need to go and call it. And I just turned around and I said to him, no, I need to be with my Ilya. Ilya's waiting for me. I need to go find my Ilya. And I literally called him the next day and I'm like, that's it. Nothing more. Whatever you need, I will submit to you in the way that you have always wanted me to, like basically be a devoting girl. I was like, you want a baby? I'll give you a baby. I don't care. I'll do whatever you want. I just laid it all out and I said to him, whatever you want, let's do it. because it really hit me, Marley, that this guy was the one that I had needed all along. And the moment I had said that to him and we got back together, like, never looked back, never
Mm.
turned left, never turned right. It was like I have felt the safest that I've always felt. And that goes into the confidence that I have today. I have never been so confident in my life to be who I am because of the husband that I have beside me. Because he allows me, he's like, what do he care what people think? Like, it does not does not make a difference. He's like, do you have my approval of everything that you do? Then you're good. And I know there are people out there that don't have that support or don't have that pillar of strength next to them. And it's sad, but I honestly think that if you've come from a background of what I had to have seen growing up, and then to finally have that confidence in yourself to have someone backing you, that's why I said before, the self-worth isn't there yet because that's something I need to work on myself. That's something that I need to have more acceptance and be more kind to myself. And I don't know how to do that. But I pray one day I can, I can really work with like on doing that. But the confidence that's purely come from having a man next to me that has allowed me to be myself fully, that has never teased me or never made me feel like I'm a dork or, all these things. Like,
Mm.
that's the kind of person that I had to find to be who I am today.
Yeah, I remember just before I met my husband, I'd like written, I don't know, I'd done like a little love spell and I'd like written down like, like I'm ready to like I want to find the one who loves me now and get married and blah blah blah. And then when I met my husband, like straight away he was like, I want to have a baby and get married. And I was like, whoa, that's way too quick. It was like, this is exactly what I want, but now that you're offering it to me, it's freaking me out. And and I don't know, I
Why are
like
we like this?
I went to India for a few months because I was like, it's too much. Like, um, but and there were things at the start, like it's interesting how you say that you thought your husband was too quiet for you or whatever. Like, I think that for me, I did have moments of like, if it's not intense and there's not all this drama and chasing and running away and all of this like whatever, then it's like, like
Not gonna last.
that's what my nervous system was attuned to. So that's what felt like love. And it did take a little while to be like, is this love? Like, is this steady, consistent, like respectful man? Is that what like is, like it's and I think lots of women can, especially lots of young women, will really relate to this, that it's like, yeah, you will sort of put yourself in positions that are the opposite of what you say you want because it's what you're used to. And
That's right.
it does take a bit of work to like actually be like, to like match up, like what you really want for your future and what you have been conditioned by media and dramatic songs and all, all this
Rubies.
crap. Yeah. To like, yeah, to actually find like a relationship that works rather than something that gives you adrenaline rush. Like, yeah.
It's so true.
So sweaty.
Yeah.
Trying to show off my hair, but it's just drenched in sweat. but, but um, yeah, but yeah, I love that. And also, again, sorry, everything is about Germany medicine for me. But I remember learning that,
Actually,
like,
never heard of that.
yeah,
Tell me more.
you'll have to look into it, Zoe. You'll have to listen to some of my podcasts. But Germany
Absolutely.
medicine, the quick sort of rundown is that Germany medicine is, it was just like it's a framework for viewing the body and health and everything, discovered by Dr. Hammer, who was a German um, doctor. What's the word? He was a oncologist. And it's the idea that sort of like all dis-ease and behavioral adaptations and all of these things come from conflict shocks. So a conflict shock is when something happens that shocks you, you're isolated, you don't know how to handle it, and your body starts to adapt. And then when that conflict resolves, your body goes into healing. Anyway, there's so many people that have been on my podcast that really explain it so much better than me. So
I'm
you'll
gonna
have to
check
listen.
that out. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it also, like when you first get into it, I think it's just explaining like, why do you have a cough? Why do you have a runny nose? And the more you get into it, it explains everything about like, every aspect of your personality is, like like Dr. Hammer used to say, like our personality is the sum of our conflicts. So it's like everything that has ever happened to us, all these adaptations along the way, that's how we become who we are. Of course, there's also,
Mm.
our divine spark that no one knows exactly what that is. But on top of that, all of our experiences, right? And so I remember learning, like, like the female biology, because we're smaller and weaker, what we have is thinking. So we think a lot, like we overthink and we're trying to keep ourselves safe, and our relationships are really important to us. And then for men, because they're bigger and stronger, like they don't have to worry about that as much. It's like they
As
can
much as thinking capacity.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
that
they
makes
can
so
they can
so much
defend
sense.
themselves, they can look after themselves. So I know that for me, if something happens and I'm like, like I'm like so worried about it, and like talking to my husband and like, do you think they're angry at me or something? And he's like, what? Like it doesn't matter. Like, like it's just, of course it doesn't matter to him. But I think that that is just naturally our design as well. And that's why, I also love the saying that, like, a man's role is to protect his woman, but often he's protecting her from herself. Like in this day and age, it's like there's
Wow.
not there's not, there might not be that much in your outside world that you need protection from, but you do need protection from your inner critic, and you need protection from your self sabotage and from, yeah, overthinking, looping, and all these things. And I think that's what, yeah, like a good man who loves us really does well, is to sort of
That
remind
is
us.
so true.
Mm.
You hit the nail on the head. Yeah. They need to protect us from ourselves sometimes, because yeah, there's been instances where, I've broken down to hubby, cried, and why did this relationship, like as in friendship, end? Why can't they see things from my side? Blah blah blah. And hubby's like, okay, he's like, this is what I'm going to tell you now. So he'll give me an example of, like, I had a mate, and there was a fight between the friends, and I made my position very clear, like, I don't care what's happened in your relationship, I'm going to be friends with both of you. And when he would give me examples of things that like that, I would be like, oh, so it's not me thinking that there is a logical reason. Like, there actually is a logical explanation that, we should see through. And he's like, yeah. He goes, If you have shit friends, then that's not on you. That's up to your friends to realize that for themselves." And I was like, oh, okay. And my husband's very much like tough love. He'll give you his advice. He'll give you the way that he sees things, but he's not going to sugarcoat it. And for me, that's great, because I need that. I need, like, to the point. I need direct. And that's how I want to be as well. I don't like fluffing around things when I'm talking to people. I'm just like, this is what it is. This is how I feel. If you like it, that's it, and but when you hear it from someone else, and your partner's also very direct as well, it's almost like, oh, okay, cool. Yep. I know how to take this now.
So, so I did want to also talk about Monet, and what got you interested in Monet, and have you done network marketing before?
So I came across Monet when my good friend Irina, who you obviously came into business through as well, she introduced me into the business. I had seen her for a few months. She actually started Monet the day I gave birth to my fifth baby. So it's funny. She gave birth to a business. I gave birth to a human. Same, same.
Funny.
And yeah, so I had been watching her, obviously, seeing what she was posting. I was like, oh, because I know Irina had experience within the network marketing industry, but it was very different the first time around. I have had some experience in the network marketing industry. I was doing a brand. It was an Australian brand, actually, and in the direct sales space, and their products were beautiful. But I did not give it everything that I had, because I had just fallen pregnant with my twins, and it just became something that I did not see the value in, because first of all, the bonuses and the income potential that Monate have, You can't find that anywhere else. It's unmatched. But I actually, Irina brought it up when we went for coffee with a group of friends. It was, I think, like just before Christmas 2024 and or 2023. Yeah, so we went for a we went for a coffee with a group of friends, and basically what happened was, we were all going around talking about our goals and what we wanted to achieve for the new year, for going into 2024. And I had said that I wanted to start a blog, like an online blog, talking about, what it's like, as a mama of five. And this was right before we had booked our tickets, our one-way tickets to come to Greece, because we booked our tickets for the 1st of August, and we ended up booking our tickets. I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd of January. So literally like 5 or 6 days after this conversation. And it's funny how, how God works, but because um after that, she said to me, she goes, when we were sitting there, sorry, she goes, Zoe, I can really see you doing what I do, just how you show up online. You're so comfortable sharing, talking about, your life and stuff. And I said, really? Me? Doing that shampoo thing? Like, I don't think I could. But sometimes it's funny because it's not, we don't see ourselves doing something until someone shines a light on us, on ourselves, and we're like, oh, okay. So anyway, we had just booked the tickets, and I said to hubby, I showed hubby the comp plan because he is the a numbers man in the relationship, or the numbers person, and he goes, looks good, looks like, you don't have to put in orders every month and stuff, so it looks pretty decent. He's like, babe, what can I tell you? Give it a shot. At the end of it, if you don't like it, you're just going to be left with products to use on yourself anyway. So I was like, all right. I said, babe, I'm going to try and make $5,000 by the 1st of August. So that was beginning of January. So I ordered my product pack on the 7th or the 8th of January. And I said to him, if I can make 5 grand by the 1st of August, I know that this will be worth it, because I made sure that this was something that I could start in Australia but continue to do online overseas. And I have been able to successfully do it with no issues. Well, we've been in Greece now for a year, for those of you that don't know. Um, and then by the time 1st of August came around, because we left Australia the 2nd of August, that's why I've made that time frame. I had made almost $20,000 doing this. So it just goes to show you, if you put yourself on a goal, like if you give yourself a goal and a time frame to achieve that goal, that you can absolutely smash it. And I know a lot of people look at this and they're like, oh, network marketing, they prey on vulnerable women. I'm like, thank God I was a vulnerable woman. Thank God I had just had my 5th baby and I needed something. I'd be in a worse, and that's when basically I saw the potential. When I made my first $1,000 bonus check after the first month, I was like, wow, you can really make money here. Like, I didn't really believe it when Irene was telling me, even though I love Irene, and I've known her all my life, and we were together with, the freedom rallies, everything. I was like, you can really make that money doing, like, selling shampoo? Like, how? And then when I got my first bonus check, I was like, oh my goodness, you can actually make great money here. So I went full throttle with it after getting that first bonus check. And I ran with it, and I haven't looked back since. The only hard things that I have faced in my business now, being overseas, is it's a few things actually. One, we're on a different time zone. So being in Greece, we're 7 hours behind you guys in Australia. The other thing is that I can't do in-person connections anymore, which network marketing, it's all about your connections. It's all about, making yourself known to people, what you do, and people basically choosing to want to buy through you instead of, the influencer that they see online promoting something that, they've been paid for. So for me, I really, yeah, I miss those in-person connections. I mean, I meet people here, and I know they're from countries that we operate in, and I build connections that way. So I wherever there is an opportunity, of course, I'm going to bring it up. Or if there's Aussies that I know are visiting here, I'm like, hey, by the way, I offer really great hair care. You know, you can find me online, or I'll just, offer them to follow me on my socials, and they'll eventually figure out that I sell the best shampoo there is on the market. But yeah,
And that's
I'm really
and just for our audience, that's because Monat doesn't operate in Greece yet, right? Like, yeah,
correct. We
in
don't
any
have
other
a we
country you can move around freely, but it's just that it's not in Greece yet.
Absolutely. I've got customers in the UK, in America, in Canada, New Zealand. Monet aren't operating. They haven't opened a base here in Greece yet. We just did announce that we're opening up in Austria and Italy. So that's now 18 countries that we operate in. But yeah, I'm just praying one day they do come to Greece. Like, I really do hope it happens. If it's obviously God's will, it will. But yeah, I do what I can, and I continue to focus on my online business as much as I can, because I've seen how much this has helped us being here and living here. When you have 5 kids, and my eldest is 8, my youngest is 1. So you do the math, there's very little age difference between the 5. Um, 2 of those are twins. There are a lot of expenses, like just now with school starting, because here, you have to buy everything from school. They don't get uniforms. They don't wear uniforms here, which is probably a bonus. But I calculated it, and I ended up spending about €160 per child to go back to school. So this year I had 4 kids starting school because the twins started preschool. So that's like, oh, how much did I figure it out to be? It was around 500 and something euro, which ends up to be about 1,000 Aussie dollars. When I know that I can pick up the tab for those expenses, and I can buy my kids their birthday presents, their Christmas presents, the washing machine that breaks down, or the new iPhone I need to replace, or all these things that come up unexpectedly and we don't really budget for, but they're coming up. It's been the biggest help, Marley. Like, I'm so grateful. I just jumped in. I said yes blindly. I said, "Yep, I'll give it a go and see what happens." And thankfully, it has worked out for me. And I love what I do. I genuinely wake up in the morning and I'm like, whose life do I get to change today? Who do I get to help feel like so much better within themselves, within their confidence? Because the products work. I know the products work. If you see my before photos, you'll see exactly where my hair was before I started. Just like your transformation, like, your hair looks so silky and soft. You can see the products work. So when I know I get to help someone feel that feeling as well, I'm just like, wow, there is no better job than making other women feel confident and beautiful in themselves, because the hair we wear on our head, it's our crown. And how confidently we wear our crown is how well, and nourished and looked after our hair is. So to be able to be the one to help people feel that, it's a blessing.
Mm. I it's funny, I always think like I don't know, I think that, like, when you decide to like buy something online or join something, or I think it usually comes through like a few influencers, like influencers and influencers. But yeah, like I remember that, like I was watching Tay and like seeing her talk all about her family legacy and stuff. And then I'd seen Irina, and I knew Irina just from like walking past her on the foreshore. And then I saw your content, and I really appreciated that you would have like noisy kids and toys in the background. And I was like, oh wow, you can actually do this without like perfectly aesthetic house or like, yeah, you can do this as different personalities sort of thing. And then
Yeah.
and then it was a few women who aren't in our team but are in other teams from like my son's friends who I'd seen their hair thicken up. So it's like you get it from multiple angles. You're like, oh, this really works. Like, and I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Yeah. And you can make money. Like, go figure, insane. If the products work, you make money, you grow in confidence. Yeah, and that's a huge thing. My confidence has grown so much. I don't know about you, and like, if you want to speak into how this has changed you personally, but for me, like, it's really made me step outside of my own, like, limiting beliefs, my own doubts. So I used to really care about what people were going to say in the beginning, and now I'm just like, ah, don't care. They're not the ones that are going to come around and change my kid's bum when he's got a shitty nappy, or, offer me to pay a bill when that comes up, or pay for my broken washing machine. It's me. Like, this
Mhm.
is my husband works, I work, and I never thought that I would go back to work after having the twins. So funny how, like, this all came into place after my fifth baby. And like you said, you can do it with the messy house if you need to. You can do it, like, you can send out, a shopping cart at 11 p.m. because you can, and you know that that's the time that you can put into this and you can work. And it just works around my lifestyle so much. So I'm so, so grateful. I like blocked out all the noise and I literally went, you know what? I'm going to do it. And through that, I've earned two full paid for trips with the company. I went to Mexico last year. That was completely free. Well, I earned that trip, but it was on the company's tab, all inclusive at the Hilton in Tulum. And then I went to the Maldives this year in May. So again, and that's through hard work. I'm not going to lie. It does take work. It takes discipline. And I tell people who come into this, if you want to make legitimate money, you got to treat this as a legitimate business. You can't have both and expect the other. Like, you can't have one and expect the other. You can't have the money but not treat it like a legitimate business. So yeah, I honestly think that whoever would consider coming and doing this, like with yourself, I honestly think do it with an open heart. Do it with the like you would wanting to go and compete in in a bodybuilding competition. There is so much prep to the lead up of what you want to achieve that you have to put in the time, the effort, and the energy to get the rewards and the fruit of your labor.
Mm, mm,
You have to treat it, you have to be disciplined. And there's days where I'm not disciplined at all. Like, the most disciplined I'll be is jumping on my stories, but that comes on second nature to me now. But there are things that I know that I need to do in the back office that I need to get done. So that's an area that I know personally, and that does obviously come down to the whole self-worth thing, is I know I'm worthy of the results that I get, but I need to put in the work too. So yeah.
mm, mm. I like the reminder as well that you can, I don't know, that you are offering an opportunity to change someone's life, because I think that, we do often, you feel cringy at first. You feel like, oh, I don't want to sell to you. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, but I have this great thing that you might really enjoy that might make you a lot of money. So it's like, I want to offer it to
That's right.
you. Like, yeah.
And you know what? If I really never shine the light on me and said, "Hey, I actually see you doing this," I wouldn't be here right now.
Mm,
You and I wouldn't have never had this connection.
mm,
So sometimes, and I say this quite a bit, y- be help people see their potential, because sometimes they won't see it for themselves. Either they refuse to, or they feel too unworthy to.
mm. And I think that's a lovely thing about network marketing as well, is just to be surrounded by a group of people who want you to win, because it's like everyone,
Oh, it's
like,
the
when you
best.
win, we win, I win, and it's like, so it's like, no, people aren't in competition with each other. It's just like, yeah, it's just like you're doing your own business, but at the same time you've got all this sort of support that, yeah, you've
Yeah.
got a team. So
The
I lo-
the best thing that's come out of it has been the relationships and the connections I've made, and seeing how far the girls have come. Like, we've all come, we're all on our own journey, and you see just how much it's transformed their confidence. Because from someone who never struggled with confidence, but seeing other people who have struggled with confidence, seeing how much they've grown, in the 12 months, 18 months they've been doing this, it's the best feeling. You're like, wow, if I didn't, speak to this person and say, hey, like, maybe this is something that you'd be interested into. Like, one of the girls in our team, she and it's I'll talk, like, I openly talk about her, Shanice. She took me 4 months to say, hey, like, I actually think you'd be great at this. 4 months of me messaging her, she would leave me on scene. And now, like, seeing how far Shanice has come mentally through her journey, it's like if I had not been the person saying to her, sis, like, you back from that cruise yet? Because we need to start working. Like, we need to start helping you make money. And seeing how far she's literally come in the year that she's been doing this, she is not the same person. She is not the same person. And she'll
Yeah,
say it.
I was just thinking as well, I think that sometimes we sort of just get like comfortable with the way things are and we forget that we can improve. Like for me, I
Yeah.
was thinking that just on like a hair and skin, it's just like, oh, I've got the hair and skin that I've got and that's it sort of thing. And then you're like, oh, actually you could do something that sort of helps you. And I know that at first I was like, I'm only doing hair care. I have no interest in the skincare. And I just bought all the new skincare and I'm like, oh wow. Like
It's
I thought
actually
that was
so good.
yeah. I thought that was really funny that I was in the business, but I'd still put that sort of limiting belief of like, oh no, I'm just here for hair. I'm not here for skin. And when I bought it, I thought like, it's a new product, everyone's raving about it. I'll try, but I didn't really expect it to do
High
much.
expectation.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
my skin feels so soft. Like you actually, yeah, you can
Yeah.
actually improve the things that you want to improve. You don't have to just settle with the way things are. It's a
That's exactly how I feel about my hair. I'm like, nah, I've been given the worst genetics. I've been using salon products my whole life. Nothing's going to fix my hair. Not this internet shampoo. That ain't going to do it for me. Fast forward a year and a half, nearly 2 years later, I've got double the hair density I had. My hair's longer than it's ever been. And I'm like, wow, it feels strong and healthy. So, yeah, go MLM shampoo because it bloody works.
yeah. All right. Well, um, I better wrap up, but thank you
No,
so
all good.
much for spending time with
No,
me and
thank
for
you,
sharing your
darling.
story. Can you please let people know where they can find you, how they can connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. So on Instagram, you can find me at Zoe underscore unapologetically. And I'm on TikTok with the same name too. So I share a lot about our journey moving abroad, what life is like with 5 kids, running an online business. And if anything, I want to inspire people to feel the confidence to show up as themselves. It doesn't matter what you look like or how you feel, because you're going to connect and you're going to relate to someone and they're going to appreciate that you found the confidence to just show up as you are. So that's my whole mantra, if you like, is I want to inspire others to be unapologetically themselves too.
Hmm, beautiful. Thank you so much. It was
Yeah.
lovely to
You're
spend a
welcome.
bit of time with you and connect
You too,
more.
you too. And all the best. I pray that you have the most peaceful and beautiful birth to your
Thank
baby.
you so much.
And yeah, and may God have his hand over your labor.
Thanks for listening to Here on Earth. I hope today's conversation gave you something to think about. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or leave a review. And if you're interested in finding out more about German New Medicine, please go back to our very first episode with Annalea. I'm going to put the link in the show notes, and I'm also going to put the link to Annalea's course, which is called Ground Floor Mini. It's an introduction to German New Medicine, embryology, the terminology, and the 5 biological laws that anyone at any level can learn. You can find me on Instagram at hereonearth_podcast. Until next time, I hope you enjoy your time here on Earth.